It was just another boring Saturday afternoon. Maya was sitting on her couch half watching some reality show she didn't even care about. When her phone buzzed, she almost ignored it. Almost. But something made her pick it up. The number looked familiar. It was the city blood bank. Her heart skipped a beat. "Hello, is this Maya Rodriguez?" a woman's voice asked, sounding rushed and a little breathless. "Yes, that's me," Maya answered, sitting up straighter now. "Miss Rodriguez, we have an emergency situation. We desperately need your blood type. Can you come to City General Hospital right away? Like right now?" Maya glanced at the clock. It was 3:47 in the afternoon. She had plans to meet her friend for dinner later. Nothing important, really, but the urgency in the woman's voice made her stomach tighten. "What happened? Is everything okay? I can't give you details over the phone, but someone's life depends on this. You're AB negative, correct?" "Yes, I am. We need you here as soon as possible." "How fast can you get here?" Maya was already grabbing her keys. 20 minutes. Maybe 15 if the traffic isn't bad. Please hurry. Thank you so much." The call ended, and Maya stood there for a second, her mind racing. She'd been on the emergency donor list for almost 3 years now. They'd called her twice before, but never like this. Never with such panic in their voice. She rushed to her bedroom, still wearing her old college sweatshirt and the jeans she'd worn to the grocery store that morning. There was a paint stain on her thigh from last weekend when she'd tried to repaint her tiny bathroom. She didn't bother changing. Whatever was happening at that hospital, someone needed her blood more than she needed to look presentable. The drive to City General felt like the longest 20 minutes of her life. Maya kept replaying the phone call in her head. The woman had sounded so worried, so desperate. What kind of emergency was this? A car accident? Some kind of surgery gone wrong? She pulled into the hospital parking lot and practically ran through the main entrance. The lady at the reception desk seemed to be expecting her, because the moment Maya said her name, she was being rushed through a side door and down a corridor she'd never seen before. "This way, quickly," a nurse in blue scrubs told her. Walking so fast, Maya had to jog to keep up. They passed the regular donation area and went deeper into the hospital. Maya noticed more security guards than usual. 3 of them stood near a set of double doors, looking serious and alert. One was speaking into a radio attached to his shoulder. "What's going on?" Maya asked the nurse, but the woman just shook her head. "Can't say. Privacy rules. But trust me, you're doing something incredibly important today." They entered a small room with a donation chair and all the usual equipment. Another nurse was already there, prepping everything. She smiled at Maya, but it was a tired, stressed kind of smile. "Thank you for coming so fast," she said. "Let's get you set up." Maya sat down in the chair, rolling up her sleeve. She'd donated blood plenty of times before. She knew the routine. The cool swab of alcohol on her arm. The slight pinch of the needle. The weird feeling of watching your own blood flow through a tube into a plastic bag. But this time felt different. The nurses kept checking their watches. One of them stepped out for a moment, and Maya could hear muffled voices in the hallway. Someone was giving orders. Someone else was running. Through the small window in the door, Maya caught a glimpse of the chaos outside. The hallway was packed with people. Not regular hospital staff, but men in dark suits. They looked like bodyguards or security personnel. One of them was barking into a phone, his face tight with worry. "Is someone important hurt?" Maya asked quietly. The nurse checking her blood pressure paused. "I really can't tell you anything. Patient confidentiality. But yes, it's serious. Very serious." Maya watched her blood fill the collection bag. It looked so ordinary, just red liquid and plastic. But right now, somewhere in this hospital, someone was fighting for their life, and this blood was going to help them. That thought made her feel strange. Powerful and helpless at the same time. The nurse worked quickly, much faster than usual. Normally, they'd chat about the weather or ask about your day, but today everyone was focused and silent. When the bag was full, they removed the needle and pressed gauze against Maya's arm. "Keep pressure on that for a few minutes," the nurse instructed. "Do you feel dizzy at all?" "No, I'm fine." "Good. Here, drink this juice anyway." She handed Maya a small carton of orange juice and a package of cookies. Maya sipped the juice and looked around the room. Everything seemed normal enough, but she could still hear the commotion outside. More footsteps. More urgent voices. A woman was crying somewhere down the hall. "Can I ask one question?" Maya said. The nurse looked at her and nodded. "Will they be okay? The person who needs this?" The nurse's expression softened. "I hope so. They have the best doctors in the state working on them right now. And thanks to you, they have a fighting chance. After 10 minutes, they let Maya go. She walked back through the hospital in a daze, still trying to process what had just happened. As she passed the emergency wing, she saw even more security. A news van was pulling up outside. Reporters were gathering near the entrance. Something big had happened. Something that involved important people and lots of secrecy, and somehow her blood was part of it. Maya drove home in silence, her mind full of questions. Who was the patient? Why all the security? Would they survive? When she got back to her apartment, her roommate Lisa was making dinner in their tiny kitchen. "Hey, where'd you go?" Lisa asked, stirring something that smelled like pasta sauce. "Hospital. They needed my blood." "Oh wow, emergency call?" "Yeah, it was intense. There were security guards everywhere and people in suits, and I think someone really important got hurt." Lisa turned around, her eyes wide. "Really? Like who?" "They wouldn't tell me anything. Privacy rules. Maybe it'll be on the news later." But that night, Maya didn't watch the news. She was too tired. She ate her dinner, took a shower, and went to bed early. As she lay there in the dark, she thought about the person in that hospital room. Some stranger she'd never met, would probably never meet. But for a few minutes today, they'd been connected in the most literal way possible. Her blood was flowing through their veins right now, keeping them alive, giving them another chance. Maya closed her eyes and whispered a quiet prayer for whoever they were. She hoped they had family who loved them. She hoped they'd wake up tomorrow and see another sunrise. She hoped her small act today would mean something. Then she drifted off to sleep, having no idea that the man fighting for his life in that hospital room was Alexander Hunt, one of the richest men in the country. She had no idea that his private jet had crashed on the highway during an emergency landing. She had no idea that in a few weeks, everything in her quiet, simple life was about to change forever, all because she'd answered a phone call on a boring Saturday afternoon. 3 weeks passed, and Maya had almost forgotten about that Saturday afternoon at the hospital. Almost. Life went back to normal. She taught her second-grade class, graded spelling tests, and spent her evenings trying to paint in her cramped apartment. Everything was ordinary again, until the flowers arrived. It was a Tuesday morning. Maya was getting ready for work, running late as usual, when someone knocked on her door. She opened it to find a delivery guy holding the most beautiful bouquet of white roses she'd ever seen. There must have been at least 3 dozen of them, arranged perfectly in an expensive-looking crystal vase. "Maya Rodriguez?" the guy asked, checking his clipboard. "That's me, but I think there's been a mistake. I didn't order anything. No mistake. These are for you. Sign here, please." Maya signed, completely confused, and brought the heavy vase inside. Lisa was already at work, so she was alone with this mystery. There was a small card attached to the bouquet. Her hands shook a little as she opened it. The message was simple. "You gave me tomorrow. Thank you." No name, no signature, nothing else. Maya stared at the card for a long moment. What did that even mean? Who would send her flowers? She didn't have a boyfriend. Hadn't been on a date in months. Her birthday wasn't for another 6 weeks. She took a photo of the card and texted it to Lisa. "Did you send me flowers as a joke?" Lisa replied immediately, "Girl, no. But someone's got a crush on you." "Who's it from?" "No idea. It doesn't say. Mystery admirer. This is so romantic." But Maya didn't feel romantic. She felt weirded out. She put the flowers on the kitchen counter and left for work. The strange message stuck in her head all day. A week later, more flowers arrived. This time it was a massive arrangement of pink peonies and lavender. The delivery person could barely carry it. The card read, "Because of you, I saw my daughter's smile again." Maya's heart did a strange flip in her chest. Daughter? Who was this person? She called the flower shop number on the delivery receipt. A woman answered, sounding professional and polite. "Hi, I received flowers from your shop and I'd like to know who sent them." "I'm sorry, ma'am, but our client requested complete confidentiality. We can't release that information. But I need to know who's sending me things. This is getting weird." "I understand, but we're bound by our agreement with the client. Is there anything else I can help you with?" Maya hung up, frustrated. She looked at the new bouquet sitting next to the first one, which was still perfectly fresh somehow. These weren't normal flowers. They looked like they cost more than her monthly grocery budget. "This is getting creepy," she told Lisa that evening. 2 huge bouquets in 2 weeks and nobody will tell me who's sending them." Lisa was examining the peonies with wide eyes. "Creepy? Are you kidding?" These are gorgeous and expensive. Really expensive. I looked up this flower shop. They only work with super wealthy clients. Great, so some rich weirdo is obsessed with me. Or, Lisa said, grinning, some rich Prince Charming is trying to sweep you off your feet. But the flowers kept coming. Every week, like clockwork, orchids, sunflowers, exotic lilies Maya couldn't even name. Her small apartment started looking like a botanical garden. The cards kept coming too, each message more emotional than the last. You are a guardian angel. I owe you everything. Life is precious because of people like you. Maya didn't know what to do. She asked her friends if any of them were behind it. She even wondered if it was some kind of elaborate prank from her students' parents, but nothing made sense. Then about a month after the flowers started, she saw something that made everything click into place. She was scrolling through the news on her phone during lunch break when a headline caught her attention. Tech billionaire Alexander Hunt returns to work after near-fatal crash. Maya clicked on the article. There was a photo of a man in his 30s, handsome in that clean-cut business way, standing outside a tall glass building. The article talked about how his private jet had crash-landed on the highway 2 months ago. How he'd nearly died, how he'd needed emergency surgery and multiple blood transfusions. 2 months ago. That was around the time Maya had gotten that urgent call from the hospital. Her hands went cold. She read the article again, more carefully this time. Alexander Hunt, AB-negative blood type, critical condition, life saved by emergency transfusion, AB-negative, just like her. Oh my God, Maya whispered to herself. Could it be? Was the mysterious flower sender this billionaire? Had her blood saved his life that day? She felt dizzy and excited and scared all at once. If this was true, it explained everything. The gratitude in the messages, the expensive flowers, the mention of seeing his daughter again. But it also made her deeply uncomfortable. She didn't want thanks. She hadn't donated blood for recognition or rewards. She'd done it because someone needed help. That was it. Simple as that. Maya tried to push it out of her mind, but the flowers kept coming. Now that she suspected who they were from, each delivery felt heavier somehow, more significant. Meanwhile, in a penthouse office across the city, Alexander Hunt was slowly going crazy. He'd been searching for his blood donor for weeks. His assistant had tried everything legal and several things that probably weren't. But hospital privacy laws were strict. Unbreakable, apparently, even for someone with his resources and money. There has to be a way, he told his assistant for the 100th time. Someone saved my life. I need to thank them properly. Sir, we've donated $5 million to the blood bank. We've contacted every lawyer in the state. The hospital won't budge. Medical privacy laws exist for good reason. Alexander ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. He was a man who solved problems, who built companies from nothing, who turned ideas into billion-dollar empires. But he couldn't find one person who'd given him a second chance at life. His daughter Sophia was 7 years old, and she'd almost lost her father. When he woke up from surgery, seeing her face had been the most beautiful moment of his existence. Someone out there had given him that moment, had given him more time with his little girl. He needed to find them. Not to repay them, because how could you repay something like that? But to simply say thank you. To let them know what their kindness meant. What about blood donation events? Alexander asked suddenly. Can we organize those? Or sponsor them? His assistant looked up. You mean hoping to run into the donor at one? Exactly. It's a long shot, but it's something. Sir, you're one of the most recognizable people in the tech industry. If you show up at a blood drive, there will be cameras and reporters everywhere. Then I'll go in disguise. I'll wear normal clothes. I'll be just another volunteer. His assistant looked skeptical but nodded. I'll find some upcoming drives in the city. That Saturday, Alexander Hunt put on jeans and a plain gray sweater. He wore a baseball cap and regular sneakers. He looked at himself in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. When was the last time he'd dressed like a normal person? When was the last time he'd gone anywhere without his security team in fancy suits? It felt strange, but also good, free somehow. He drove himself to a blood donation event at the downtown convention center. No driver, no bodyguards. Just him and his hope that maybe, somehow, he'd meet the person who saved his life. Alexander walked into the convention center, nervous in a way he hadn't felt in years. People were setting up tables and chairs. Volunteers were hanging banners. Everyone looked busy and purposeful, and then he saw her. A young woman with dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and a t-shirt with paint stains on it. She was organizing registration papers, humming quietly to herself. There was something warm about her, something genuine. He had no idea if she was the one, no idea at all. But something made him walk over to her table anyway. "Hi," he said, his voice coming out more nervous than he intended.
"I'm here to volunteer."
"Where should I start?" She looked up and smiled, and Alexander forgot how to breathe for just a second. "Perfect timing," she said. "I could use some help setting up these chairs. I'm Maya, by the way." "Alex," he said quickly. "Nice to meet you." He didn't notice the volunteer badge clipped to her shirt. Didn't see the small sticker indicating her blood type. He was just happy to be talking to someone who had no idea who he was. Someone who smiled at him like he was just a regular guy offering to help. But later, when she turned to grab more registration forms, he saw it. The badge. The sticker AB negative, his heart stopped. Then it started beating so fast he thought he might pass out. It was her. Against all odds, he'd found her. Or maybe she'd found him. Either way, here she was. This ordinary, extraordinary person who'd saved his life and had no idea what she'd done. Alexander Hunt, who'd negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, suddenly had no idea what to say. Alexander tried to act normal, but his hands were shaking as he helped Maya set up the chairs. She was right here. The woman who saved his life was standing 3 feet away from him, completely unaware of their connection. "So, do you volunteer at these events often?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Whenever I can," Maya said, arranging clipboards on the registration table. "I'm a teacher, so weekends work best. Plus, I'm a universal donor recipient, so I know how important this stuff is." "You're a teacher? What grade?" "Second grade. 23 little humans who can barely sit still for 5 minutes." She laughed, and Alexander found himself smiling genuinely for the first time in weeks. "What about you? What do you do?" He hesitated for just a second. "I work in tech. Software stuff. Pretty boring, actually." "Everything sounds boring when you describe it like that," Maya said, rolling her eyes playfully. "I bet it's more interesting than you make it sound." They worked together for the next hour, setting up stations and greeting other volunteers. Alexander kept waiting for someone to recognize him, but nobody did. The baseball cap and casual clothes worked better than he'd expected. Or maybe people just weren't looking for a billionaire at a community blood drive. Maya was easy to talk to. She told him about her students, about the kid who brought his pet turtle for show and tell last week, about how she spent her evenings trying to paint even though she wasn't very good at it. "I'm terrible, honestly," she admitted. "But it makes me happy, you know?" "Sometimes that's enough," Alexander nodded. He couldn't remember the last time he did something just because it made him happy. Everything in his life had a purpose, a goal, a business reason behind it. "What kind of stuff do you paint?" he asked. "Abstract things mostly. Lots of colors thrown together. My roommate says they look like a kindergartner made them, but she displays them anyway because she's nice. I'd like to see them sometime." Maya looked at him, surprised. "Really, you're probably just being polite." "No, I mean it. I like art. Haven't thought about it in years, but I used to draw when I was younger." "Why'd you stop?" Alexander paused. Why had he stopped? Work took over, he guessed. Success. Responsibility. Life got busy and the things that made him happy got pushed aside. "I don't know," he said quietly. "I just did." As the blood drive got busier, they ended up working the same registration table. Between checking in donors, they kept talking. About everything and nothing. Books they'd read. Movies they'd seen. Maya told him about her dream to open some kind of art center for kids who couldn't afford classes. Alexander listened, genuinely fascinated. "There are so many talented kids who never get the chance to explore art," Maya explained, her eyes lighting up as she talked. "They think it's only for rich people or naturally gifted people. But everyone should get to create things, you know? Everyone should have that outlet." "That's a beautiful idea," Alexander said, and he meant it. "It's just a dream, though. Those places cost money to run, and I'm barely making rent as it is." She shrugged, but Alexander could see the sadness behind her smile. The day flew by. Before Alexander realized it, the event was wrapping up. Volunteers were cleaning up and saying their goodbyes. He didn't want to leave. For the first time, in 4 years since his wife had died, he felt genuinely connected to another person. "Hey, can I get your number?" he asked, trying not to sound too eager. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime. I'm new to volunteering and could use someone to show me the ropes. Maya hesitated for just a second, then smiled. Sure, why not? It's nice to meet someone who actually cares about this stuff. They exchanged numbers, and Alexander walked to his car feeling lighter than he had in months. He sat in the driver's seat for a long moment, just staring at her contact information on his phone. Maya Rodriguez, the name of his guardian angel. He wanted to tell her right then, wanted to explain everything, but something held him back. What if knowing changed things? What if she started treating him differently? Right now, she saw him as just Alex, some regular guy who helped set up chairs. He liked being that person, liked how she looked at him without any expectations or calculations. Over the next 2 months, Alexander and Maya became close friends. He took her to small coffee shops in quiet neighborhoods where nobody would recognize him. They went to little art galleries that Maya loved, the kind that showed local artists nobody had heard of. They spent hours walking through the park, talking about everything from childhood memories to their biggest fears. Maya told him about her parents, immigrants who'd worked themselves to exhaustion to give her a better life, about how she became a teacher because she wanted to give back, even though it meant living paycheck to paycheck, about how lonely it felt sometimes, watching everyone around her buy houses and get married while she could barely afford her half of the rent. Alexander listened and shared carefully edited versions of his own stories. He told her about Sophia, his 7-year-old daughter who loved dinosaurs and refused to eat anything green. He talked about losing his wife to cancer, about the guilt of building a business empire while she was dying, about how he still didn't know if he was being a good father. You love your daughter, Maya said simply. That's what matters. The rest you figure out as you go. They didn't talk about money. Alexander made sure of it. He paid for things subtly, never making a big deal about it. He wore normal clothes and drove a regular car he'd bought specifically for this. For the first time in years, someone liked him for who he was, not what he had. But the secret was eating him alive. Lisa, Maya's roommate, was getting suspicious. She'd Googled the mysterious flower deliveries and found out they came from an exclusive service, the kind that only the super wealthy used. Maya, I'm just saying it's weird that you start getting expensive flowers and then suddenly meet this perfect guy who's really into you, Lisa said one evening. Alex isn't sending me flowers, Maya argued. He's just a regular guy, he works in tech. Have you Googled him? No, because that's creepy. Why would I Google someone I'm friends with? Because sometimes friends aren't who they say they are. But Maya refused to believe it. Alex was genuine. He remembered little things she said. He showed up when he said he would. He made her laugh and listened when she needed to talk. That wasn't something money could fake. Then one night, everything changed. Maya was at Lisa's laptop, trying to find a movie to watch when a business magazine popped up in the recommended articles. The headline read, Alexander Hunt returns to public life after near-death experience. The photo showed a man in an expensive suit standing in front of a massive building. It took Maya a full 5 seconds to recognize him. Alex. Her Alex. But he wasn't Alex at all. He was Alexander Hunt, founder and CEO of Hunt Tech, one of the biggest cloud computing companies in the world, worth billions. Actually, billions. Maya's hands went numb. She clicked on the article, reading frantically. The private jet crash, the emergency surgery, the rare blood type that saved his life, AB negative, her blood type. Everything crashed together in her mind. The urgent hospital call, the mysterious flowers, meeting Alex at the blood donation drive, his evasiveness about his work. The way he always insisted on paying but made it seem casual. It was all connected. He'd been lying to her this entire time. Oh my God, Maya whispered. Oh my God. Lisa came over and looked at the screen. Wait, is that? He's been lying to me this whole time. He's not just some tech guy, he's a billionaire, and I saved his life and he never told me. Maya felt like she couldn't breathe. Every conversation they'd had replayed in her head, but now it all felt fake. Had any of it been real? Or was this just some rich guy's weird way of paying back a debt? She grabbed her phone and texted him, "We need to talk. Now." 20 minutes later, there was a knock on her door. Maya opened it to find Alex looking worried and guilty. "You know," he said quietly. Not a question, a statement. "When were you planning to tell me?" Maya's voice shook with anger and hurt. "Were you ever going to tell me? Can I come in? Please?" Maya stepped aside and Alexander walked into her small apartment. He'd never been here before. She'd always met him at his suggestions, never questioning why. Now she knew. He'd been avoiding places where people might recognize him. "I was at the hospital that day," Alexander said, his voice raw. "My plane crashed. I was dying. They gave me emergency transfusions and one of them was from you. Your blood saved my life, Maya. I know that now. What I don't know is why you lied to me. I didn't lie, I just didn't. You didn't tell me the truth, that's the same thing." Maya crossed her arms. "The flowers. That was you, wasn't it?" "Yes. And you've known this whole time. You knew who I was when we met at the blood drive. I saw your badge, your blood type. I realized it was you and I wanted to tell you, but what, Alex? Or should I call you Alexander?" He flinched. "I liked being just Alex. For the first time in years, someone treated me like a normal person. You didn't want anything from me, you just liked me. Or at least I thought you did." "I did like you," Maya said, and tears were starting to form now. "But I liked someone who was honest with me. I liked someone who I thought saw me as an equal. Now I find out you're a billionaire who's been playing dress-up, pretending to be regular while I told you about my money problems and my tiny dreams. And you just sat there probably laughing at how small my life is." "No," Alexander said firmly, stepping closer. "Maya, no. I never thought that. Your dreams aren't small, your life isn't small, you're the most real person I've met in a decade." "Then why did you lie?" "Because I was scared," he admitted. "Scared that if you knew who I really was, everything would change. That you'd see me differently. That what we have would become about money or gratitude instead of just us." Maya wiped her eyes. "What we have? What do we have exactly? Because I thought we were becoming friends. Maybe more than friends. But now I don't know what was real and what was just you being grateful for a blood donation. All of it was real. Every conversation, every moment, Maya, He stopped, struggling with words. "You saved my life twice. Once with your blood and once by making me remember what it's like to just be human. Not a CEO or a billionaire or a headline. Just a person." "I need time," Maya said quietly. "I need to think about all of this. About whether I can trust you again." "I understand." Alexander walked to the door, then turned back. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I should have told you from the beginning, but I'm not sorry for the time we spent together. That was the happiest I've been in years." He left and Maya sank onto her couch, feeling like her whole world had just shifted. The man she'd been falling for wasn't who she thought he was, but maybe in a strange way he was exactly who he'd seemed to be, just with a lot more money and a lot more secrets. She didn't know what to think anymore. 3 weeks. That's how long Maya went without talking to Alexander. 3 weeks of ignoring his texts, declining his calls, and pretending like everything was fine when Lisa asked if she was okay. But she wasn't fine. She was angry and confused and hurt. And worst of all, she missed him. She missed their coffee shop conversations. Missed the way he actually listened when she talked about her students. Missed how he'd get excited about the smallest things like finding a good used bookstore or watching the sunset from the park bench they'd claimed as theirs. "You need to talk to him eventually," Lisa said one night, finding Maya staring at her phone for the 100th time. "I don't know what to say. Start with how you feel. That's usually a good place." But how did Maya feel? That was the problem. She was angry about the lying, yes, but underneath that anger was something else. Something that felt a lot like love, and that scared her more than anything. Meanwhile, across the city, Alexander was falling apart in his own way. He threw himself into work, spending 16-hour days at the office. His assistant noticed, his board members noticed, even 7-year-old Sophia noticed. "Daddy, you're sad," she said one evening at dinner, pushing her chicken nuggets around her plate. "I'm fine, sweetie." "You have your sad face. The one you had when Mommy was sick." Alexander's heart broke a little. His daughter was too young to be this perceptive, too young to worry about her father's emotional state. "I made a mistake," he told her honestly. "I hurt someone's feelings, and now they won't talk to me." "Did you say sorry?" "I did." "Then you have to wait. That's what my teacher says. When you hurt someone, you say sorry and then you give them space. But you can't give up." Alexander smiled despite himself. "When did you get so wise?" "I'm 7 3/4, Sophia said seriously. "That's almost 8. That night, Alexander made a decision. He wouldn't push Maya, wouldn't bombard her with messages or show up at her apartment, but he wouldn't give up either. He'd prove to her that what they had was real, even if it took time. He started small. He donated to the elementary school where Maya taught, enough to fund their entire art program for the next 5 years. He did it anonymously, making sure his name appeared nowhere on the paperwork. Then he funded 3 scholarships for teaching students at the local university. Again, anonymous. He found the community center near Maya's apartment that had been struggling to stay open and paid off their debt. No recognition, no press release, just a quiet payment that kept their doors open. It wasn't about buying her forgiveness. It was about honoring who she was, what she cared about. If he couldn't be with her, at least he could support the world she was trying to make better. But Maya didn't know about any of this. She was dealing with her own crisis. One Tuesday morning, her principal called her into the office with the strangest news. "Maya, I don't know how this happened, but someone donated a substantial amount to our school. Specifically to fund arts education," Maya blinked. "What?" "We're talking about enough money to run a full art program for years. New supplies, guest instructors, field trips to museums. Everything you've been asking for since you started teaching here. Who donated it? It's anonymous. The lawyer handling it won't say. But Maya, this is huge, and I want you to lead the program." Maya sat there stunned. This was everything she'd dreamed about. Her students would finally get the art education they deserved. But something in her gut told her this wasn't a coincidence. She went home that afternoon and did what she'd been avoiding for weeks. She Googled Alexander Hunt. Pages and pages of articles came up. His company, his innovations, his philanthropy. That last word caught her attention. She clicked on an article titled, "The Secret Charitable Work of Alexander Hunt." The article talked about his anonymous donations, how he'd funded dozens of programs across the city without ever putting his name on them. Community centers, food banks, scholarship programs, all done quietly, without press conferences or photo opportunities. Maya's anger started to crack. She'd been so focused on his wealth and his lying that she hadn't thought about what he actually did with his money. He wasn't just hoarding it. He was using it to help people. Still, she wasn't ready to reach out. Not yet. 2 days later, something else happened. Maya's elderly neighbor, Mrs. Chen, knocked on her door looking confused and happy and overwhelmed all at once. "Maya, dear, the strangest thing happened. Someone paid off my medical debt, all of it. $20,000 just gone. The hospital called and said an anonymous donor cleared my account." Maya's heart started pounding. "When did this happen?" "Just today. I don't understand it. I've been praying for a miracle, but I never expected this." After Mrs. Chen left, Maya sat on her couch and stared at the wall. It had to be Alexander. But how did he even know about Mrs. Chen? Unless he'd been paying attention when Maya mentioned her neighbor's health problems in one of their conversations months ago. He'd remembered. And he'd helped, not to impress Maya, but because he'd actually listened when she talked about the people she cared about. Maya picked up her phone. Put it down. Picked it up again, she typed, "Did you pay Mrs. Chen's medical bills?" The reply came almost immediately. "I didn't know if you'd ever talk to me again." That's not an answer. "Yes, I did." "And my school's art program?" "Yes, why?" There was a longer pause this time. Then, "Because you care about these things. Because even if you never forgive me, these things matter. Your students matter. Your neighbor matters. The world you're trying to build matters." Maya felt tears burning in her eyes. "You can't just throw money at problems and expect that to fix us." "I know. That's not what this is about. I'm not trying to buy your forgiveness. I'm trying to honor who you are. I need to see you. In person. When? Now. 40 minutes later, there was a knock on Maya's door. She opened it to find Alexander standing there, looking tired and hopeful and scared all at once. He was wearing the same gray sweater from the day they met, jeans and those regular sneakers. Just Alex again, not the billionaire, just the man. Hi, he said quietly. Come in. They sat on her couch, the same one where she'd cried after learning the truth. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. I've been thinking a lot, Maya started. About everything. About you lying, about the money, about who you really are. Alexander nodded, not interrupting. And I realized something. You did lie to me about your identity, but everything else, all the important stuff, that was real, wasn't it? Every word. Every moment. Maya, I've never been more myself than when I was with you. Why didn't you just tell me from the beginning? Honestly? I was afraid. My wife, before she died, there was always this question in my mind. Did she love me or what I could provide? We met after I was already successful. I never got to just be a regular person falling in love. When I met you, when you had no idea who I was and you still liked me, it felt like this precious gift. I didn't want to lose it. But you lost it anyway by lying. I know, and I'm sorry. I should have trusted you with the truth. Maya looked at him, really looked at him. She saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the guilt, but also the hope. This man had saved lives with his technology, had built something incredible, had a daughter he loved desperately, but he'd also been lonely, just like her. The man I fell for, Maya said slowly, was someone who listened, who cared, who made me feel seen. Was that man real? That man is sitting right here. Not the billionaire, not the CEO. Those are things I do, not who I am. Who I am is a father who worries about being good enough, a guy who misses drawing, someone who thinks your dreams are beautiful, not small, someone who's been lonely for a long time and didn't even realize it until I met you. Maya felt something shift inside her. The anger was still there, but it was smaller now, making room for something else. I can't promise I'm over this, she said. The lying hurt. The fact that you have this whole other life I don't understand, that's hard. I know. But I miss you, I miss us. And I think I understand why you did it, even if I don't agree with how you handled it. Does that mean you'll give me another chance? Maya thought about it. Really thought about it. This wasn't a fairy tale. Real life was messy and complicated. People made mistakes, but people could also learn from them. On one condition, she said, anything, no more secrets. I don't care about your money or your company or any of that, but I need honesty. Complete honesty. Can you do that? Yes, I promise. And I need you to understand something. I'm not going to change who I am. I'm still going to live in this small apartment and teach second grade and paint bad abstract art. Your money doesn't change my life. I'm with you despite it, not because of it. Alexander smiled, really smiled for the first time in weeks. I wouldn't want it any other way. Maya felt herself smile back. Okay then, okay? Yeah, we can try this again. The right way this time. Alexander reached out and took her hand carefully like he was afraid she might pull away. She didn't. Thank you, he said softly. For the second chance. For everything. They sat there on her couch holding hands, both of them knowing this wasn't the end of their challenges. His world and hers were very different. There would be more complications, more things to figure out. But for now, in this moment, they had honesty. They had each other, and sometimes that was enough to start over. Outside, the city kept moving. Life kept happening. But inside that small apartment, two people who'd saved each other in different ways were finally being honest about what they meant to each other. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and real was what they'd both been searching for all along. 6 months passed and everything changed. But also nothing changed at all. Maya still lived in her small apartment, still taught second grade, still painted abstract art that Lisa lovingly called uniquely creative instead of bad. But now Alexander was part of her life in a real way. No secrets, no pretending. It wasn't always easy. The first time Maya met Alexander's business partners at a dinner, she wore her nicest dress, which probably cost less than the appetizers being served. The men in expensive suits looked at her like they couldn't figure out what she was doing there. One of them actually asked if she was Alexander's assistant. I'm his girlfriend, Maya said calmly, though inside she wanted to disappear. Alexander squeezed her hand under the table and later told her she'd handled it perfectly. But Maya couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't belong in his world. Maybe this is too hard, she told him one night after another awkward business event. Your world and mine, they're just too different. Then we make our own world, Alexander said simply. One where both of us fit. And slowly, they did. Alexander started teaching Maya about his company, not in a condescending way, but like he genuinely wanted her to understand his work. Maya taught him about her students, about the challenges teachers faced, about why art and creativity mattered in education. He came to her classroom once and sat in a tiny chair meant for 7-year-olds, listening to her teach. Afterward, he told her it was one of the most impressive things he'd ever seen. You manage 23 different personalities. Keep them engaged, teach them actual skills, and do it all with patience and creativity, he said. That's harder than running a board meeting. Maya introduced him to her world, too. They volunteered together at the community center, had dinner with her parents, who were suspicious at first but warmed up when they saw how Alexander looked at their daughter. He even met Mrs. Chen, who insisted on cooking him authentic Chinese food and telling him embarrassing stories about Maya. But the real test came when Maya met Sophia. Alexander was nervous about it. His daughter was everything to him, and he needed her to like Maya. They planned a casual meeting at the park, nothing too formal. Sophia showed up with scraped knees and a dinosaur backpack, eyeing Maya suspiciously. Are you my dad's girlfriend? She asked bluntly. I am, Maya said, kneeling down to Sophia's level. Is that okay with you? I don't know yet. What do you think about velociraptors? I think they're misunderstood. Everyone thinks they're just mean, but they were probably just trying to survive like everything else. Sophia's eyes widened. That's exactly what I think. Dad, she gets it. From that moment, they were fine. Better than fine. Sophia started asking when Maya was coming over. They'd spend hours drawing together, Sophia's careful dinosaur sketches next to Maya's chaotic abstract paintings. One Saturday, Sophia looked up from her coloring and said, I'm glad you're here. Dad smiles more now. Maya felt her heart squeeze. This little girl had lost her mother too young, and here she was being brave enough to let someone new into their lives. Things were good. Really good. But Alexander knew he wanted more. He started planning a proposal. His initial idea involved renting out an entire art museum, hiring a symphony orchestra, flying in her parents from across the country. The works, but then he stopped himself. That wasn't Maya. That wasn't them. He thought about what really mattered. Not the money or the grand gestures, but the moments that had meant something, the blood donation drive where they'd met, the quiet conversations, the real connection they'd built. So he changed his plan completely. 6 months after their reconciliation, Alexander asked Maya to meet him at the convention center downtown. The same place where they'd first talked, where he'd helped her set up chairs where she'd had no idea who he was. Why are we here? Maya asked, confused when she arrived on a Sunday evening. I have something to show you, Alexander said, taking her hand. He led her inside. The big convention hall was empty except for something in the center. As they got closer, Maya realized what she was seeing. Paintings, her paintings. At least a dozen of them. Professionally framed and displayed on gallery walls that definitely hadn't been there before. What is this? She whispered. Remember all those paintings you said you threw away because they were bad? I may have rescued them from your trash. And the ones you gave to friends? I tracked those down too. Don't worry. I asked permission first. Maya walked slowly between the displays, seeing her own work presented like it actually mattered. The abstract colors she'd thrown together on stressed evenings. The experimental pieces she'd hidden in her closet. All of it here displayed like real art. Alexander, these aren't good enough for this. Says who? You, because I disagree. I think they're beautiful. In the center of the display was one painting Maya didn't recognize. It was abstract too, but different from her style. Reds and oranges and warm tones blending together in a way that felt both chaotic and peaceful. I didn't paint that one, she said. I know. I did. Maya turned to stare at him. You painted this? Remember when you told me I should start drawing again? I tried painting instead. This is my first piece in 20 years. I called it Life Given, Love Found. Alexander, this is actually good. Thanks, he laughed. My 7-year-old art critic approved it too. Maya looked at the painting again, really looked at it. The red tones reminded her of blood, of life, of the donation that had brought them together. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked softly. Alexander took both her hands. "Because you gave me something no amount of money could buy. You gave me life, yes, but more than that, you gave me a reason to actually live it. Before I met you, I was just going through motions. Working, being a dad, existing, but not really living. Alexander, and let me finish, please." He took a deep breath. "You taught me that the most valuable things aren't the ones you can buy. They're the moments you share, the connections you make, the way someone looks at you like you're just a person, not a bank account or a business opportunity." Maya felt tears forming. She knew what was coming. Alexander got down on one knee and Maya's breath caught. "I'm not going to lie and say money doesn't matter. I know my resources can do good things. But I need you to understand something. I'm not proposing because I want to give you a lifestyle or buy your love. I'm proposing because you make me want to be better. Because Sophia lights up when you're around. Because I want to spend the rest of my life seeing the world through your eyes." He pulled out a ring. It was beautiful but not flashy. An emerald because he remembered her once saying they were her favorite. "Maya Rodriguez, will you marry me? Not for my money or my company or any of that. Just for me, for us. For the life we're building together?" Maya was crying now, not bothering to wipe the tears away. "Yes," she said, her voice shaking. "Yes, I'll marry you." Alexander slipped the ring on her finger and stood up, pulling her into a kiss. When they broke apart, both of them were crying and laughing at the same time. "I have one more thing," Alexander said. He led her to the wall behind his painting. There was a door she hadn't noticed before. When he opened it, Maya gasped. It was a fully equipped art studio. Professional lighting, canvases, paints, supplies, everything an artist could want. But more than that, there were small desks and chairs. "Children's sizes. This isn't for you," Alexander explained. "I mean, you can use it, but it's not yours. This building, this whole building, it's for your dream, your community art center. It's fully funded for the next 20 years. Staff hired. Curriculum ready. We open in 2 months." Maya couldn't speak. She just stared at the room. At the realization of a dream she'd barely let herself fully dream. "You said everyone should get to create," Alexander continued. "You said kids needed this outlet regardless of money. So here it is. No strings. No your name attached to my fortune. This is separate. A foundation in your name, funded independently. You run it however you want." "I don't understand," Maya managed. "Why? Because you don't need my money to be extraordinary. You already are. This is just giving you the tools to share that with others." Maya threw her arms around him, crying into his shoulder. All her life she'd worked so hard just to stay afloat, teaching, surviving, pushing her own dreams aside because they seemed impossible. And now this man, this formerly mysterious billionaire, was telling her that her dreams mattered, that she mattered, not because of what he could give her, but because of who she was. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing me, the real me." "Thank you for saving my life," Alexander whispered back, in more ways than one. They stood there in that art studio, surrounded by the promise of creativity and opportunity for hundreds of kids who needed it. Two people from completely different worlds who'd found each other through the simplest act of human kindness. Maya had donated blood to a stranger without expecting anything in return. And that stranger had turned out to be someone who would change her entire life. Not with money, though that helped, but with love, respect, and the genuine belief that her dreams were worth fighting for. 3 months later, they got married in a small ceremony at the community center. Sophia was the flower girl, wearing a dress covered in dinosaurs because Maya insisted she should be comfortable. Mrs. Chen cried happy tears. Lisa caught the bouquet and immediately started planning their celebration. The art center opened the next week. On the first day, 23 kids showed up eager to learn. Maya taught them all, watching their faces light up when they realized they could create something beautiful. Alexander stopped by after work, still in his suit, and sat in a corner watching. Sophia ran up to him, showing off her painting of a T-Rex eating flowers. "Is this life weird?" Sophia asked her dad. "Very weird," Alexander agreed. "Good, I like weird." Maya looked over at them and smiled. Yeah, life was weird. She was a second-grade teacher married to a billionaire. She ran an art center funded by one of the richest men in tech. She'd saved his life with a simple blood donation and somehow ended up here, But it was also perfect. Not because it was easy or conventional, but because it was real. Built on honesty, respect, and genuine love. And sometimes the best love stories start with the simplest act of kindness. A stranger helping a stranger. One person giving what they can. No expectations. No conditions. Just humanity at its best. Maya had given Alexander tomorrow, and in return he'd given her all the tomorrows after that. Together, they'd built something neither could have created alone. That was worth more than any amount of money in the world.